me I look for a modern city with them say them supposed to build out here. You know what there?
You really looking for that?
Since morning me there I look for that thing, you know.
A man like you, Flanker?
Them tell me a modern city there out here, so me come look for state now me want to see how it look.
Oh my God, Flanker, you know got better sense than that?
So you try to tell me?
But you go be looking for a modern city, a man like you.
But me not see nothing, me I look for how long.
So if you not see how you look,
then tell me look good.
Government now has in its possession the master plan for the development of the new city at Ardersvale.
I'll see Friday and them coffee back down. Jobs we provide for the youths, them regular. Them I make promise and not keep them. November the 5th, NDP will win them. Better LK, more jobs, more employment. Fear we, them fear we. Vote, we are vote for the NDP. Yeah, we are win November the 5th. There's only one choice, that to be the key. Yeah, fear we, them fear we. Vote, we are vote for the NDP. Yeah, we are win November the 5th. There's only one choice.
Hello, yellow army. All you hear the news? Tell her we know. You must say, Labour dead. Labour dead. They dead. Labour dead. Labour dead. Oh God. Labour dead. Mother. Labour dead. They gone. The party dead. You wealthy dead. Carlos is getting licks. Orlando is getting licks. Minerva is getting licks. All of them getting licks. Sutherland is getting licks. Carmelo is getting licks. Even the ball and beg, they're getting licks, they're dead. I know this election night, no fun they're going to miss their bed. Top 5 in a row, this time all they have to go. Nothing ain't going so, I said nothing ain't going so. Labour dead, they're dead. Labour dead, they're dead. Labour dead, they're gone. Labour dead, they're gone. Labour dead, bye-bye. Labour dead, bye-bye. The party dead, they're dead. You wealthy dead, they're dead. The hospital in a mess, the road and them in a mess. The country feel depressed. It's time to release the stress. I saw they lie, bad. I saw they thief, bad. I saw they wicked. Me I wonder how they sleep. Lord God, I saw they lie, bad. I saw they thief, bad. I saw they wicked like the belly of the beast. They're raising up everything except for salary. The only seat they're winning is down in the cemetery. We need justice for Yugi. Justice for Yugi. We need justice for Yugi. Justice for Yugi. Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. Oh gosh. Labour dead. Bye bye. The party dead. They're gone. You wealthy dead. They're gone. Now that election call, Labour have them a ball. All who depend the high horse will have to fall. Principal where you starve, you shape up like a jackass. Every day you are tight, your finger them go chop off. Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. Mother what? Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. They're gone. Labour dead. They're dead. Labour dead. Mother what? The party dead. They're dead. You wealthy dead. Election is coming wrong. All of them getting scared. Who don't get heart attack? It's gonna end up in jail. They gone in the cemetery to mess with people grave. Wait till the zombie catch you, she go beat you like a slave. Labour dead, they're dead. Labour dead, they're dead. Labour dead, they're dead. Labour dead, they're dead. Labour dead. Oh gosh, Labour dead. Bye bye. The party dead. They're gone. You wealthy dead. They're gone. Minerva can't even talk and want to represent. Every time she open she mouth, I smell in a kind of scent. We ain't taking no bribe, no lumber, no galvanize, no rice, no chicken back. So keep all your love backs. Labour dead. Bye-bye, Labour. Labour dead. Yeah, you never worry. Dead. Goodbye, Labour. There's a shame on you. The party dead. Mother walk. You wealthy dead. So the father, so the son. Labour dead. Look for them. Labour dead. And the election night. All you behind a cut nail. All you did this time with a party dead. You wealthy dead. Enough is enough. The party dead. More people are fed up. You wealthy dead. Justice. You wealthy dead.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a great country, but we could be doing so much better, and we need a plan for jobs and growth. The NDP will introduce a Citizenship by Investment (CBI) program in 2021. with checks and balances, will bring in new tax-free money for job-creating projects. Foreign investors can seek a second citizenship in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A second citizenship gives them more global free visa access. With the right of citizenship comes responsibilities. All investors must pass background checks and invest a significant sum of money in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Foreign investors already invest in hotels. Why don't they invest in healthcare? A new CBI program run by an NDP government will push them to invest in a new hospital. Money to support young people and job creation. Our Caribbean neighbors already collect millions of dollars each year through CBI. St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua, and Dominica fund schools and hospitals through CBI. Our most precious resource is our people, and we must not fail them. We need tax-free, people-focused investments, growth, and jobs now. Together, we can get SVG working again.
In 2001, unemployment was 20%. After 19 years of the ULP, even before COVID, it's 26%, almost 50% among young people. 19 years is long enough. Vote NDP to get SVG working. The ULP promised a new hospital, a national stadium, 6% unemployment, and a city at Annisvale. They have broken their promises and delivered none of it. 19 years is long enough. Vote NDP to get SVG working.
We Patel fans them day. Spring Village Coastal, Chumacadavia, Peter Chateau. Let me see you go so.
Little Chris, come in.
This love back sound like a fish pot. The government bait it up, them only catch spot. Well, them a treating Vince to like horse, man. Treat them like dog, like slavery walk come back. Well, them a shake galvanize and lumber. Love back sweet yam and banana. This government nervous and frightened because them wreck the whole of St. Vince too. So we tired of the unfair government. Well, them a push poor people like animate that one yani. Vincent, don't worry your mind. Peace, peace and love we should find.
Tell them I
Friday we ready for you now. NDP we showing them how. You hear me? Well, them change Carlos name to Suwinka. Carlos Patel Matthews na Freda. Well, I delete what see them want capture. No sir, well let me tell you about Luther. Him turn stupid and spoil him character. The dog we shoulda ride him as soon as they went. Don't run for the Democrat Party. Make apologize and tell me say you're sorry. That one your name Vincent and don't worry your mind. Peace, peace and love we should find. Friday we ready for you now. NDP we showing them how. You hear me? Well run, Carlos run. Well Patel Matthews a come. Well the owner for the land a come. You hear me? Well this love back sound like a fish pot. The government bait it up, them only cat spot. Well them a treating them to like horse, ma treat them like dog, like slavery walk come back. Well them a shake galvanize and lumber. Love back with yam and banana. This government nervous and frightened because them wreck the whole of St. Vincent too. So we tired of the unfair government. Well them a push poor people like animate. That one your name Vincent and don't worry your mind. Peace, peace and love we should find. Friday we ready for you now. NDP we showing them how. You hear me? Well them change Carlos name to Suwinka. Carlos Patel Matthews na Freda. Well I delete what see them want capture. No sir, well let me tell you about Luther. Him turn stupid and spoil him character. Yup, should have buy him as soon as he enter. Don't run for the Democrat Party. Make apologize and tell me say you're sorry. Now when your name Vincent and don't worry your mind. Peace, peace and love we should find. Friday we ready for you now. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. NDP we showing them how. hear me?
What you do there, boy?
When I look for a modern city with them, say them supposed to be out here. You know what there?
You really looking for that?
Since morning, me there I look for that thing, you know.
A man like you, Flanker?
Them tell me a modern city they out here, so me come look for state, and I want to see how it look.
Oh my God, Flanker, you know got better sense than that?
So you try to tell me?
But you gonna be looking for a modern city, a man like you?
But me not see nothing, me I look for how long.
So if you not see him, where you look?
Then tell me look good.
Government now has in its possession the master plan for the development of the new city at Ardersvale.
We dip on it. Well, I don't know, say boy, Casper Jimmy, I reach out to the youths them. You see November 5th, we voting for the key. Don't play with it. Mr. Friday is the man for the house. We go get the ULP out, and we will never regret. It's the sweetest life we go get. And when the people them start to shout, I had to give me cousin a cloud. The boy make me start fret. Chop the white shot pan the step. I love St. Vincent. I don't know where them saying them love. Them a whole get to use them. Them now we feel fly like a dove. Them a victimize the people. Them the poor man get push and shove. And the 5th of November put your vote finger up and say, labor lose. Colors get so much like still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Rooster get so much like still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Believer get so much like still she run out she shoes. I say, labor lose. Debbie get so much like still she run out she shoes. 20 years in power never raise up salaries. 60 plus I bet me $100 done with these. Me woman getting underpaid by Steven and Chinese. When I see me face them begging, it just hurt me heart and me knee. I love St. Vincent. I don't know what them saying they love. Them a whole ghetto you don't get them want we feel fly like a dove. Them a victimize the people, them the poor man get push and shove. And the 5th of November put your four finger up and say, labor lose. Look wrong get so much they still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Cortez get so much they still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Camelo get so much they still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Jimmy get so much they still even out the shoes. I tell Mr. Soddy, liquor get my chargy. To how them run the country, I cannot vote for Ralphie. I tell Mr. Soddy, liquor get my chargy. To how them run the country, I cannot vote for Ralphie. Labor lose. Augustus get so much they still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Saboto get so much they still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Ralphie get so much they still even out the shoes. I say, labor lose. Mom we get so much they still even out them shoes. Well it don't know it go. We want keep for we house, keep for we car, keep for a brighter future. And we want Friday cause Friday's payday and we not get paid. Don't play with it. I don't know Casper G. Don't not change we say. Don't play.
Hey! The change is coming. We voting again. We did the first again and again. And the TV voting again. And you see this time? I can feel the change is coming. Shout out here. The masses are fed up of the bribing. Shout out here. If you want the country to prosper and you want to work for $1, your children destiny. Vote the key. A better standard of living, mind, body and soul improving. Ride with NDP. Vote the key. NDP, we voting again. We voting again. NDP, we voting again. We voting. Ready, we voting. We voting again. We voting. work for $1, your children destiny. Vote and keep a better standard of living, mind, body and soul improving. Ride with NDP. Vote and keep. NDP, we vote again. You see this time around? We voted overwhelmingly. And this anything you can give, you vote. We still gonna come out victorious. NDP, we voted. We not going to let them divide we. Shout out here. We join in the NDP family. Shout out here. Yeah, man. If you want the country to prosper and you want to work for $1, put your X, your children destiny next to the key. Vote the key. A better standard of living, mind, body and soul improving. 2020, ride with NDP. Vote the key. Home say, NDP, we voting again. We voting again. NDP, we voting again. Then you know this time. NDP, we voting. No matter how much you think. We voting. NDP, we voting. We shall strive for unification. Shout out here. All of we are one Vincentian. Shout out here. If you want the country to prosper and you want to work for $1, your children destiny. Vote and keep a better standard of living, mind, body and soul improving. Ride with NDP. Vote and keep. We voting again, again and again. We voting again. We voting. We voting. We voting. Yeah, man. We voting. If you want the country to prosper and you want to work for $1, your children destiny. Vote and keep a better standard of living, mind, body and soul improving. Ride with NDP. Vote and keep. We voting again, again and again. We voting again. We voting. We voting. Yeah, man. We voting. Telling them who this time. We voting.
But what you do there, boy?
When I look for a modern city with them, say them supposed to be out there. You know what they?
You really looking for that?
Since morning, I look for that thing, you know.
A man like you, Flanker?
Them tell me a modern city out there, so I come look for state and I want to see how it look.
Oh my God, Flanker, you know got better sense than that?
So you try to tell me?
But you gonna be looking for a modern city, a man like you?
But I not see nothing, I look for how long.
So if you not see how you look?
Then tell me look good.
Government now has in its possession the master plan for the development of the new city.
1, 2. All right, a pleasant good night. Ladies and gentlemen, good night and welcome to once again another virtual meeting of the New Democratic Party. We're coming to you live from our headquarters in Kingston, what continues to be a very rainy day here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Before we officially get started though, ladies and gentlemen, of course, as always, we like to get things started with a word of prayer. So at this point in time, I'd like to ask those of you in the hall to kindly stand as we get started with a word of prayer, ladies and gentlemen.
O Lord and Heavenly Father, once again we thank you for your blessings and your mercies. We thank you once again, Lord, that you continue to guide us and protect us always. We continue to ask for your health and your strength, especially in a time like now, as we continue to go forward to spread the message of hope and prosperity for our country. Lord, we ask you to continue to guide and bless our candidates and us as a political party and as a people, as Vincentians in our country, that you may continue, O Lord, to be our health and our strength and our guide and our peace at this time. We say these things in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we kindly ask you to remain standing for the national anthem of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
St. Vincent, land so beautiful, with joyful hearts we pledge to thee our loyalty and love, and vow to keep you ever free. Whate'er the future brings, our faith will see us through. May peace reign from shore to shore, and God bless and keep us true. High ruler, fair and blessed Isle, your mountains high, so clear and green, are home to me. Though I may stray, a heaven come serene. Whate'er the future brings, our faith will see us through. May peace reign from shore to shore, and God bless and keep us true. Our little sister islands are those gems, the lovely Grenadines, upon their seas and gold and sand, the sunshine ever beam. Whate'er the future brings, our faith will see us through. May peace reign from shore to shore, and God bless and keep us true.
Thank you very much. You may have your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting off our virtual meeting here tonight on a bit of a somber note. Many of you may have realized that throughout the day today, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have been experiencing some weather system that has been passing throughout the day today, which brings a lot of rain to the shores of our country. I've been informed, I understand that tonight, I think in Greg's, there are a couple persons tonight who are seeking shelter because of damage to their house. I'm not sure if that is because of the high winds or because of landslides, but we sympathize with them tonight. We understand that our New Democratic Party's candidate, Israel Bruce, is already on the ground in the constituency. And of course, I'm sure that he will give us an update as to what is happening. We understand that there's been some reported landslides in Byra. Of course, the New Democratic Party, we were slated to have quite a few virtual meetings and events throughout the course of the day today, but we have officially canceled all those events and hence decided to bring to you tonight this virtual meeting from our headquarters. So, President of the New Democratic Party, Dr. Godwin Friday, Vice President of the New Democratic Party, Sinclair Major Leacock, Chairman of the New Democratic Party, Mr. Daniel Cummins, candidates Fitzgerald Bramble and Kebakis Batiste, General Secretary of the New Democratic Party, Mr. Tyrone James, Public Relations Officer, Lavon King, and of course those of you here in the hall with us tonight and those of you viewing via social media, we say a very pleasant good night to you and welcome to another virtual meeting of the New Democratic Party. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just days away from a general elections in this country. And of course, the message continues to be a serious one from the New Democratic Party. You will be hearing from the candidates who will be speaking tonight, as well as the leadership of the NDP, on the serious matters and the serious issues that continue to confront us and are the big talking points for the general elections of 2020. Tonight, it's a serious meeting, and that is how we will be dealing with it tonight, and that is how our speakers will be dealing with the matters and the issues here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I urge you to share the live and to spread the message as we come to you on your mobile devices, on your smartphones, in your homes, and wherever you are tonight, delivering the message of change, of hope, of equal opportunity, and of jobs and more jobs going forward to the general elections of November 5th, ladies and gentlemen. So, with that being said, we will go straight into our first speaker tonight. He's coming out of the constituency of East Kingston, ladies and gentlemen. Please, a pleasant good night to Mr. Fitzgerald Bramble.
I was buried alive, but I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I got a feeling. I am alive.
Good night, good night, good night. Thank you, Colin. A pleasant good night to everyone in the hall and to all of our viewers on social media. I want to recognize our leader and president, Dr. Friday, our vice president, Major Sinclair Leacock, Chairman Daniel Cummins, fellow candidate Sister Kebakis Batiste, other attendees in the hall tonight. I want to say a special good night and hello to all of my friends in and around St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and especially to my constituents in East Kingston, the bedrock constituency of mainland St. Vincent and the Grenadines. East Kingston has shown me a lot of love throughout this campaign, and I can't wait until November the 5th to return that love via proper representation when I am elected as the next representative. November 5th will see Vincentians voting in an election which, in my view, and in the view of many Vincentians, is going to be the most important election in our history. Because this coming election on November the 5th will give Vincentians an opportunity to change the course of history and to change the course of our lives for the better. Far too long have Vincentians endured pain, hardship, a high level of unemployment which is unprecedented, a high incidence of poverty which is unprecedented in our country. The Unity Labour Party has been in office for 19 long years. It is simply too long. This is our time to make a difference. This is the time for Vincentians to give the New Democratic Party the opportunity to create the kind of St. Vincent and the Grenadines which we deserve. the kind of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for which we all can be proud. Listen, over the course of the 19 years of the Unity Labour Party administration, they have promised us so many things. They have made so many promises which have failed. I don't need to go into details about these promises, but I will highlight some of them. They promised us a new city at Arnisvale. We're still waiting for that. They promised us a deep water harbor down in Rose Place. We're still waiting for that. They promised us a national stadium that is yet to be delivered. They promised us a new hospital, but yet we are still experiencing the worst healthcare system that we have ever experienced in our country. They promised us a geothermal project. All attempts at that project failed miserably, resulting in a loss of millions of dollars. So if after 19 years, the Unity Labour Party administration has demonstrated that the only thing they're good at is breaking promises, why should we give them another chance to fool us yet again? That is why it is important for us to go to the polls on November the 5th and vote resoundingly for the New Democratic Party as your next government. The New Democratic Party's plan is a very simple one, but a very effective one, because the plan points to the core of the problems which we face in this country. The plan points to the most effective solution, which is to grow the economy and create new jobs. The New Democratic Party will provide skills and employment. We will equip our young people for the future and provide them with the education and training to set them up for successful careers. Another aspect of our plan is to invest in local businesses. That is how you grow the economy. When your private sector is vibrant, it generates economic activity which results in employment and income earning so that the economy can move, so that people can live a decent life. Our focus will also be on the growth of agriculture and fisheries. Can you imagine, in our country, in our small economy, we are spending over $200 million a year to import food into our country. Produce that we can produce and grow right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, sweet peppers. $200 million to import these things into our country. Not only can we save that money by producing our own food, but we will also be providing meaningful jobs for our people. Our farmers have suffered under the Unity Labour Party. So it's no wonder why we are spending so much money to import food, and we have to change that. The New Democratic Party's plan to grow the economy and create jobs will also focus on delivering infrastructure in order to provide jobs and growth for our economy. We will undertake major projects of development and build and fix the problems of roads across this country. Everywhere you go in this constituency of East Kingston, across the country, the main issue that everyone has is the problem of our roads, the poor and dilapidated conditions of our roads. The road network is what you need to connect and to move about. When you leave your homes, whether you're walking, driving, taking a van, it's the roads you have to travel on. So that plays an integral part in our daily lives. If we don't have proper roads, we're going to have problems moving about and connecting and contributing to the development of our country. Another aspect of the growing of the economy and the creation of jobs will be funding science and technology. We will invest in secure, affordable, and efficient technology. We can't be left behind. I mean, look at our public service, for example. You still have to go down to the Treasury or some government office and stand in line for somebody to sign a piece of paper for you. You have to go to encounter all these outdated processes. We can make our public service, for example, much more efficient if we utilize the technology which is available. So technology and science will be an important part of our plan to grow the economy and to create new jobs. In the constituency of East Kingston, my focus will be on job creation with a view again to growing that local economy and contributing to the growth of the national economy. The strategy in East Kingston for job creation would be centered around the development and operation of community cooperatives, where we will pool our resources, we will pool our talents, so that no one individual is left struggling on their own. We will provide that support mechanism so that our local business people in East Kingston can develop and grow and thrive off each other. Training of young people will also be my focus in East Kingston. East Kingston will again become one of the leading communities in this country by providing relevant skills training for our young people. Too many of our young people are sitting on the roadsides. Many of them completed secondary school, community college, but they're not employable because they don't have a meaningful skill. And we are going to make sure that we prepare our young people for the world of work so that they can add value to their talent and they can add value to their lives. The Sion Hill Junction will be developed and expanded as a modern entrance point into the city with increased business activities. Our people in East Kingston are very enterprising, but they need the environment, they need that support mechanism to help them realize that potential and to help them to be more effective. Fitzbramble and the New Democratic Party will provide that support and help to create that environment. We will also support our tourism industry. In East Kingston, I will ensure that we develop the Harbour Club up there by the cruise ship berth as a tourist attraction to reflect the historical structure and activities that would encourage interaction between locals and tourists. This will include, for example, building a small housing complex for the current residents. And they can also use that housing complex as an Airbnb facility, for example. So you're creating opportunities for the people, the residents of the Harbour Club area, up in the Quarry area, to generate income and to create economic activity that can be useful. I mentioned on previous occasions that I will build a water park that will provide jobs. Over 100 jobs will be provided during the construction of that water park, and 60 plus jobs for the maintenance and operation of the park. This will provide a family-friendly place for our locals and will support our goals for the growth in tourism. Just imagine a cruise ship boat coming here for one day. They don't have time to go all the way down to the Falls of Belen or out to the La Soufrière. But with our splendid water park that will be located down at the Sion Hill Bay, the tourists can go down there and enjoy themselves for the day, spend money, support the local shops, restaurants, and what have you. This is nothing new to the Caribbean. It's nothing new to the Eastern Caribbean. They have water parks in St. Lucia, in Trinidad, in Jamaica. I have been to some of these water parks. So why can't we have the same thing here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? I heard that Sandals, who is about to build a hotel here, so we were told, as part of that project, they plan to also build and operate a water park. So why is it okay for foreign investors to bring a water park here, but your local representative who has studied the idea, who has done the economic impact, it's not okay because the idea is coming from him? Come on, my people, we gotta wake up. We gotta wake up. We are no better than anybody, but nobody is better than us. And our ideas are just as good and just as effective as anybody else's. We gotta learn to love our own and appreciate our own and support our own. And that is the kind of attitude that I am going to be encouraging in East Kingston. Efficient and convenient healthcare will also be another of our emphasis in growing the economy in East Kingston. East Kingston is home to arguably the worst health facility in this country. Wood lice ridden. And what is so bad is that the facility that's been there for years was closed for renovation. And the temporary facility was also wood lice ridden. Is that what we deserve in East Kingston? As your representative, I will ensure that in East Kingston, we provide the best healthcare facilities and contribute significantly to a top quality healthcare system in this country. I guarantee you that. You know why? Because it pains my heart to know that my opponent, who is from East Kingston and who is the Minister of Health, has neglected our healthcare facility and the healthcare system in this country. His performance has been miserable as the health minister, and that is putting it mildly. He has failed us as the health minister. Just look at the dengue situation. Under his watch, 7 persons died from dengue. People of East Kingston, you need to reject any candidate with such poor performance. And I'm asking you on November the 5th to resoundingly vote for Fitzbramble and reject Luke Bong because of his poor performance as the health minister. The New Democratic Party is the party for this time, for this challenge. The challenges presented by COVID are huge, and it's going to take a Herculean effort for us to get out of this. The Unity Labour Party has demonstrated that they are incapable of managing our economy under normal circumstances. So why do you think they're going to be able to do it now that COVID is posing an even greater challenge? The New Democratic Party is the team with the versatile talent, skills, and expertise to lift us out of this economic quagmire. I am telling you, the Unity Labour Party cannot and will not take this economy out of the doldrums and out of the very low realities which this economy presents right now. They have demonstrated it. Since they have come to office, unemployment has increased significantly. Poverty has increased significantly. Our national debt has increased significantly. So why do you think they're going to be able to do better now? They will not be able to do better. And if you make the mistake of putting the Unity Labour Party back into government, this country is going to suffer even more than we are suffering right now. You feel the pain. You feel the pain, Vincentians. I don't need to convince you that times are hard here. You wake up every morning and you feel the pain. Our middle class is totally gone. Totally gone. We only have the rich and the poor in this country. Our private sector has been destroyed. And the Unity Labour Party has demonstrated that they have no intentions whatsoever to support our private sector and to support our businesses. Why do you think after almost 400 businesses were closed due to COVID that the Unity Labour Party has not provided a single bit of relief to any of those businesses? Because they don't care about the businesses and the private sector. The New Democratic Party is a business-friendly party. And that is why our Citizenship by Investment program will prove to be so successful, because it is a program which will attract investors who will provide millions of dollars, tax-free and debt-free, to help to lift this economy. The Citizenship by Investment program is a program which is utilized in all of our OECS neighboring countries. Millions of dollars generated in these countries, and because of that, they're able to undertake and successfully implement socio-economic programs for the betterment of their people. Just 2 days ago, the United States government praised the Grenada government for the way they have been handling their Citizenship by Investment program. The U.S. ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, they praised the Grenada government for undertaking top quality due diligence as they select and encourage the investors who come to their country under their Citizenship by Investment program. So don't believe the hype, don't believe all the propaganda that they're telling you about the Citizenship by Investment program. The only reason why Ralph Gonsalves and his Unity Labour Party is so much opposed to the Citizenship by Investment program is because the NDP beat them to it. He's upset because he did not utilize the opportunity. And he's afraid that the Citizenship by Investment program will enable the New Democratic Party to make serious economic progress and will put his record to shame. That is what he's afraid of. Don't believe all the nonsense you hear him talking. And you know, I always say, the very education revolution that he's bragging about is coming back to haunt him. Because all the propaganda and all the lies and all the misinformation, our people are so educated and so intelligent that they can see it coming from miles away, and they're not buying it. I want to urge you on November the 5th to make sure you go out and vote resoundingly. Come rain or shine, the future of this country is too important for you to stay at home. The future of this country demands that you go out and you exercise your right to determine the future that you want. For too long, Vincentians have been living under a cloud of fear, being afraid to speak out, being afraid to express themselves, for fear of being victimized, for fear of being vilified, for fear of being insulted, for fear of being dehumanized. We have had 19 long years of that, and it is enough. It is time for you to elect a decent leader in Dr. Friday. A man with integrity, a man with vision, and a man who commands the respect of his entire team. And a man who is an inclusive leader and will listen to his team. Not somebody who's going to come and proclaim himself as world boss. Our country does not need that. We do not have the space in this country for any world boss. This country was created by Almighty God. He is our world boss, nobody else. Let us reject that kind of blasphemy. Let us reject that kind of degradation of our character, of our dignity. Vincentians on November the 5th. I beseech you, I beg you, go out and vote Fitzbramble in East Kingston. Go out and vote for all the candidates of the New Democratic Party so we can be given the opportunity to take this country forward and make us all proud again. Thank you very much. Good night. God bless you, and I love you.
This one is going to be massive. The NDP Youth Rally is this Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field from 7 p.m. Come listen to Dr. Godwin Friday talk about his plans to get SVG working. Performances by Magical, Casper G, Zard, Peaches, Snooks, Rasmoses, Lisa Chrissy, Chemical Kid, Akim, Flanco, the War Tanker, the Band Flames and more. Vibes by DJ Fugitive and CJ Tuffa. The NDP Youth Rally this Saturday, October 31st, 7 p.m. at the Richmond Hill Playing Field.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. So this coming Saturday, we want to encourage one and all to come on down to the Richmond Hill Playing Field as the New Democratic Party will be putting on its youth rally. So we encourage everybody on the windward side, everybody on the leeward side, and of course, we can't forget the northern or the southern Grenadines. We all will be converging this coming Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field for a massive youth rally for the New Democratic Party, ladies and gentlemen. The movement continues with the young people. The young people have taken over the campaign, and now it is your time to shine this coming Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field. Big performances by top, upcoming, next generation local artists here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, giving our young people, our young artists, a time to really shine and show their talent and their ability. The future is with them, and the future is with the New Democratic Party. Tonight is not for me to stand here and long talk, ladies and gentlemen. It's serious time and serious message. So please, welcome to the podium another hard-hitting member of the New Democratic Party. And not because it means she's a female, means she can't hit it hard like the fellas. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, K. Bacchus Batiste.
His hands are not short, that it cannot reach to you. His eyes are never blind, he cannot see your teeth. His ears are not deaf, that he cannot hear you cry. Your tomorrow must be greater than today. Your tomorrow must be greater than today.
Yes, good night, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Good night, Mr. President, and all my colleagues here present tonight. The New Democratic Party is a serious party. The New Democratic Party is a resilient party. The New Democratic Party knows how to be flexible when necessary. So when the rain today poured in all its glory, we immediately reorganized those cancelled events to bring you a message here tonight, because we are serious, we are committed, and we did not want to just take an evening off and relax. This election is too important. This is an election, the decision that you make is going to last for your children and your grandchildren. And so we have to take every opportunity to bring our message to you. Right now, as I speak, some of my team members are in Bel Air doing a meet and greet. Yes, in all of the rain, we had planned to do karaoke and meet and greet at a shop. And while I was willing to put it off, they said no. And the residents came out, and as I speak, that is going on in Bel Air. This shows the seriousness with which we take this election. Now, tonight, I want to tell you briefly about the procedure for voting and the COVID regulations. I choose this because I got a number of calls today after I made a presentation on radio, on Boom, to explain exactly what to expect. First of all, no one who enters St. Vincent after the 31st of this month will be permitted to vote. The reason being that there is a mandatory 5-day quarantine at a hotel chosen by the government. So that once you come in after the 31st of this month, you have to be in quarantine, and you will not be permitted to break that quarantine so that you can vote. However, persons who came in from the 31st and up, even though they are in quarantine, once they have completed the mandatory 5-day quarantine and they go home for the additional 9 days, the health authorities and the supervisor of election, they have decided that they will give a special pass for these persons to vote between the hours of 5 and 5:30 p.m. Many persons asked, how is that possible when the law says that voting should end by 5 p.m.? Well, they're going to have to pass some sort of regulation and amend the representation of the people's regulations to permit this. I think the Attorney General is well aware of this and is working on something. Again, persons ask, how could this be possible when Parliament is prorogued? The amendment is being made not to the Act, but to the regulations under the Act. And in some circumstances, Cabinet may still meet and make regulations. But the regulations must not offend the offenses of the RPA. So that if persons are being brought in by plane loads for the purpose of voting, that can be regarded as treating, and that would be an offense. If persons just on their own come into St. Vincent, then that is not treating, and they can go to vote. The regulations would say, or the protocols would say, that they can get themselves from their homes to their various polling stations. They will still be required to vote at the polling station in which they are registered. It seems as though the number of persons that this will affect, we don't know yet, but it may be somewhere around the hundreds. A list is to be handed to the supervisor of election by the health authorities, and all the persons who are 18 and above and who are on the list and eligible to vote, a list would be made of them, and this list should be, and we will make sure that it is circulated to all the stakeholders, including the political parties, so that we would know beforehand who these people are, and if there are any challenges to be made, we can make these challenges. Now, come election day, the ministry is recommending that persons wear masks. It is not mandatory. The reason being that we do not want people who do not have a mask or do not want to wear a mask to feel that they should stay home. We are encouraging strongly all Vincentians who are eligible to vote to come out and exercise your vote. So do not be put off if you hear them saying you're not going to be able to vote unless you have a mask. That is not correct. But for your safety, it is strongly recommended that you wear a mask when you come to vote, even if it is just for that period. Now, there are other issues which will arise from that, because if you are masked, how would the agents see properly who you are to determine whether you should be voting there or not? It's an issue that will have to be dealt with. I will strongly recommend that you bring your own mask, because there may be persons from appointed who will be handing out masks as you arrive. I would not recommend that you take masks from any of these persons. You do not know who they may be. I think you either wear your own mask, or maybe if the supervisor of election staff, when you get in, give you a mask. That's what I would recommend. Now, as you arrive at the polling station, if you are wearing a mask, the protocol is that you have to sanitize your hands. Having sanitized your hands, you take the mask off so that you can be properly identified by all the officials. After you take the mask off, you can put it back on to vote, and you have to sanitize again. You would be issued with a ballot paper. It is very important to note that this presiding officer should affix his initials and a stamp to the ballot paper. There were all sorts of rumors going around that if the presiding officer writes on your ballot, you must give it back and take another one. I do not want persons to be confused by the procedure. It is the duty of and the law requires it, for the integrity of the ballot, that the presiding officer would write his initials on the ballot paper, not on the counterfoil, and put a stamp on it. When you get your ballot paper, you would, having given your name, etc., and you're identified and your name is ticked off in the register by all the agents present, then you go inside the booth that is provided and you mark your X for the key next to the key with the pencil that is provided for you. Having done that, you come back out and you hand your ballot paper to the presiding officer. At this point, you are required, according to the protocol, to sanitize your hands again. Well, I'm told that the pencils would also be sanitized. I am not sure yet how that would operate, whether you would bring the pencil back out or how that would be done. That has to be sorted out clearly. But the pencils are supposed to be sanitized also. Now, you have your hand sanitized, and then you dip your hand in the ink, and after that, you stand there and look at the presiding officer put your ballot in the box. Once you do that, no one can tell who you voted for. There's absolutely no truth in the rumors that are going around that the presiding officer or some politician, because of the type of ballot paper, can tell who you vote for. It is your duty to stand there. You would have folded the ballot paper as you would be directed how to fold it. Once you have folded the ballot paper and you hand it back to the presiding officer, don't leave until you see it, that ballot, your ballot, dropped into that box. After that, there is absolutely no way that anyone can tell who you voted for. And then after that, you're free to leave the station. Now, I got some calls today concerning the issue of fingernails and nail polish and these sort of things. Do not let anyone intimidate you or fool you or make you stay at home because they're saying you have to cut your fingernails or you have to take off whether it is your gel or what have you. The RPA does not speak about dipping your finger in the ink. This is a procedure that was introduced by the government to help to secure the integrity of the vote, but it is not a requirement of the RPA. No presiding officer can refuse your vote because your fingernail is too long or because you are wearing nail polish. Number of persons asked me that today, and I wanted to make it clear because it is not in the RPA that you need to dip your finger in ink. Nevertheless, it is a procedure that we have followed. And so I would encourage persons to cut their fingernails. I would encourage persons, if possible, to take off the nail polish. In fact, I remember from my experience voting before that they sometimes have a bottle of nail polish remover and they clean it off. The reason being that they didn't want anything to interfere the adherence of the ink. Nevertheless, if you, because in those days most persons had nail polish. These days there's gel and dip powder. No nail polish remover can take that off. So I just want you females who have your nails nicely done, don't be afraid to come to vote because you will have to break your nails or cut your nails or peel off, whatever. The law provides for you to vote once your name is on the list, and no one can turn you back because of a fingernail. I repeat that I would encourage you to keep the nails at a reasonable length, but don't be intimidated or be turned back because you have a particular fingernail. I wanted to make that quite clear so that persons will not be fearful to come for these silly little reasons. Your vote is too important. This election is too important an election to let anything keep you away from the polls. It is your civic duty. On the 5th of November, this is your liberation call, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to just mention briefly about CBI, because as my colleague Fitz said to you, the CBI program, CBI means in citizen by investment. There's absolutely no truth to the ULP propaganda that the NDP just going to be selling our passports. It is a dastardly lie. It is a cowardly lie. And I will tell you this. We have an act called the Citizenship Act in St. Vincent. And under that act, Gonsalves government has been doing the same thing they're saying the NDP going to do, giving passports to non-Vincentians. There's records that daily some 15, 16 persons line up over the 10 years to get these passports. It is on record that Gonsalves has said that it is his purview who he gives passports to, and he's not going to account to anybody. So how dare he come now and criticize a program of the NDP which will invest in the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The big difference between his passport given away or selling away or however you want to call it and our CBI program is that there will be accountability. There will be disclosure. Everybody would be able to know who gets a passport or not, how much is paid towards the investment, and the investment will go to the benefit of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ask Anthony Astafan about that. Anthony Astafan, a close friend and confidant and the go-to lawyer of Gonsalves, said very, very clearly that the Citizenship by Investment program worked well, improved Dominica, and it is an excellent program. Do not believe the lies that are being said to you. You see, sometimes I think they think you're foolish and you don't listen and you don't think, and that you just have to say a word, sell, and it will just reverberate in your minds. Dash that away. It's a big lie. It's not true. And just consider the reason why the ULP is afraid of the CBI for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I will tell you why. Because the CBI is going to lift St. Vincent out of poverty. The CBI, along with the other programs of the NDP, will lift St. Vincent out of poverty. We are trailing behind right now. The IMF approved it. The CDB approved of it. All the other prime ministers except Gonsalves. Ask yourselves why. Think about the poverty assessment report. He wants to keep you in poverty. He wants to hand out money and fix a road and bribe you with a piece of land or what have you at election time so that you can keep him and his family as a dynasty over St. Vincent. Well, we say no more. 2020 is the end of the Gonsalves dynasty. No more. No more. So on the 5th of November, I urge you, my dear people, let your liberation cry be heard as you march to the polling station and you put your X by the key for whichever candidate would be running in the constituency that you're voting in. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
This one is going to be massive. The NDP Youth Rally is this Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field from 7 p.m. Come listen to Dr. Godwin Friday talk about his plans to get SVG working. Performances by Magical, Casper G, Zard, Peaches, Snooks, Ras Moses, Lisa Chrissy, Chemical Kid, Akim, Flanco, the War Tanker, the Band Flames and more. Vibes by DJ Fugitive and CJ Tuffa. The NDP Youth Rally this Saturday, October 31st, 7 p.m. at the Richmond Hill Playing Field.
Them fear we have vote for the NDP. Yeah.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. And what a time it's going to be this coming Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field. We encourage one and all to come and to be a part of what is destined to be a big night and a magnificent night for the New Democratic Party, for the young people of this country, and for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Serious times, ladies and gentlemen, call for serious leadership. And at this point in time, we bring up one of the leading members of the New Democratic Party, part of the leadership of the NDP. He is the chairman, he is the elected representative for West Kingstown, and I'm quite certain that he will once again regain his seat in the upcoming 2020 general elections, November 5th. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daniel Cummins, chairman of the New Democratic Party.
When you see injustice around you, and do you have the courage to stand up and fight it too? Would you put your life on the line for a better land? And would you fight for a principle? Would you take a stand? Someone asked me not long ago, how far would I go? And if I think I had the courage to be a hero, I said, I'll do it for my country.
Thank you very much. Good evening, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Special greeting to our president, Dr. Friday, and members of the New Democratic Party who are here with us tonight. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are 1 week away from a decision that would change our country in a very significant way. The case has been made over and over, abundantly clear,
about the need to salvage what is left of our blessed land and to redirect our focus in the interest of all of our people. As our nation is being deluged by heavy rains throughout most of the day, many of our people are becoming victims of landslides and the attendant problems. We can expect the water supplies to be interrupted tomorrow and in the days ahead. This is a good time for us to reflect. Tonight, I just want to point to what we have been saying for a very long time. Particularly with respect to water, we are a blessed country. The mainland has most times sufficient water running in the streams. But we have not done sufficient to make sure that when we have such torrential rains, we can continue to have proper water supply. An NDP government will quickly address this fundamental issue of having a very reliable supply on the mainland and once and for all making sure that the people of the Grenadines get a permanent water supply through the use of solar energy for transforming seawater into water for drinking. I just want to remind you that the plans that this new Democratic Party has, led by Dr. Friday, are not just about gaining government. Yes, we cannot achieve these objectives unless you elect us into government. That is why we are campaigning for your vote. But I want you to see the big picture. This is about you, the people of this country, and your children and their future. The direction that we have been led under this rogue regime, still illegitimate, still not allowing the court to decide their legitimacy after 5 years, is more than enough for you to realize that their intention is about themselves and their families. The recently released statistics, findings on poverty should not shock you. Should never shock you. You have been living this for a long time. You are experiencing this for years. They know it, you know it. The survey showed it. But their interest again, fellow Vincentians, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, their interest is self-preservation. They don't want for the information to be heard because they know you will ask questions. Why this area has a better result? Why so many people can't find jobs? All I ask you to understand is this. As bad as that report is, it was done before COVID. With COVID, the economy has fallen through the bottom. Very many more people are without jobs. Far more people are suffering and can't put food on the table. The decision you make on November 5th, my brothers and sisters, is crucial to your very survival. Your very survival. If a government does not care enough about you to secure your basic health needs, your very basic health needs, can you trust these people to do anything for you? Do you believe that they care about you? If you have a government that is permitting so many people, including children, to die from a preventable disease, as we know dengue is, tell me, can they help you with cancer? Can they help you with any of the serious diseases? Ask yourself, Where would St. Vincent and the Grenadines be 5 years from now under a Minister of Health like the disaster we have had over the last 5 years? We must do better. No group of people can do worse than this incompetent, non-caring, self-centered bunch. Every Vincentian has a responsibility to stand up, and November 5th is the time. Last evening, we in West Kingstown, like so many other constituencies, had one of our continuing meetings in Rose Place. And I listened as I was moving from Barley Curtains to that meeting. I listened to a young man, a fisherman, a very intelligent young man, pouring his heart out, telling us about the suffering that the fisher folk have been experiencing, telling us about the fooling that this government has been doing to them for years, promising the world and giving nothing, talking about the plans that the fisher folk want to see enacted to make sure that the country gains the benefits from fishing, which we know are enormous. I want to tell you, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I was privileged several weeks ago to sit down right in Rose Place with a group of about 25 of similar people, the fisher folk, and listen to their concerns, listen to their proposals, even as I told them some of the plans that the New Democratic Party had for them. Listen, when the New Democratic Party talk about bringing these plans to fruition, Dr. Friday and the team for years have been going through the length and breadth of this country, sitting with farmers, ordinary folk, fisher folk, you name it, listening. You know what you are experiencing. You have brilliant ideas. Some of them need a little tweaking. We are not saying that we're just going to get something out of the sky and land it there. We have been preparing ourselves for this very day. We are ready to demonstrate to you that St. Vincent can and will do better. And finally, I want to share with you an issue related to Otley Hall as a simple example of how our country could be doing better. In the year 2006, Martinique had a problem with its yachting industry. A company well established there had a 2-year backlog of yachts that it could not service. It had a shipyard in Martinique, and it had so much work, 2 years backlog. They came to St. Vincent and requested of this government to lease them the Otley Hall Marina so that they could employ 150 Vincentians, train them and certify them, and perform a lot of work here, creating income and employment at that Otley Hall Marina. The year 2006. The government received by hand the requests from this very competent firm. To date, they have not even acknowledged receipt of that request. We have been telling you, we are committed to rebuilding that facility at Otley Hall. It is not just a shipyard, it's a marina, so that when you bring your yacht and they're being repaired, your yachts can anchor there, and there is to be a small hotel so you yourself can stay there. There's going to be, like there was, proper restaurants and all of that. Folks, this is real. The kinds of jobs that this project can and will produce will be not just people to turn the linen on the bed. The welders, the technicians, the painters, the builders, the engineers, the plumbers, you name it. They will be very well paid. Each one of them will be in a position to meet the needs of their families. You are talking 150 to 200 families in St. Vincent lifting themselves out of poverty, living proper lives. A simple example, real and true. The New Democratic Party urges you to remember November 5th. Do what you can do to salvage this country. Thank you. Good evening.
What will you do there, boy?
When I look for a modern city with them, so them supposed to build out here. You know what there?
You really looking for that?
Since morning, I look for that thing, you know.
A man like you, Flanker?
Them tell me a modern city there out here, so I come look for state, and I want to see how it look.
Oh my God, Flanker, you know got better sense than that?
So you try to tell me?
But you gonna be looking for a modern city, a man like you?
But I not see nothing, I look for how long.
So if you not see him, where you look?
Then tell me look good.
Government now has in its possession the master plan for the development of the new city at Ardersvale.
Democratic Party, Mr. Daniel Cummins. And of course, the constituency of West Kingstown, we encourage you to come on out on election day and vote solidly and put back in place Mr. Daniel Cummins and make him honorable once again in the constituency of West Kingstown. Tonight, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing from the leadership of the New Democratic Party. So at this point in time, I'd like to welcome to the podium, he is the Vice President of the NDP, ladies and gentlemen, from Central Kingstown, Major Sinclair Leacock.
Watching the time, how the people are moving and murmuring to myself, wish it never had to be the way I see. This world running shouldn't have to be, 'cause now every man's cup is filled with hate and overflowing. Father and love, things are going wrong, yeah. It's wickeder than before. We really checks that we could have run things, but it don't look so anymore. Come down, Father.
Come down, Father. Good night, good night, good night. Sister Martindale, where you are in Canada tonight, you may be asking why the Major is not dancing. Well, that's because your daughter Nicole is in the audience doing all the dancing for me. And I think we can say that at this time, just completing our level 1 and 2 training, readying up ourselves for election day. Let me thank all of the members of the legal team, Maya and company, who have been doing this masterful job in making sure that all of our agents are fighting fit for the 5th, so that no sense of trickery will get beyond the New Democratic Party to interfere with this victory for which we are assured. I'm sure listeners at home tonight and in the diaspora taking advantage of the cool weather, the rain. You know, Vincentians love the rain when they're at home. Notwithstanding, some are affected by it. Do have the opportunity to listen to us in a peaceful and calm moment. And it's only fair that we who are presenting this evening reciprocate and present in a way that reaches you in the deep recess of your mind. Last evening, like so many of my colleagues, I was on the hustings. And I was the opening batsman both in East Kingstown and West Kingstown, and took advantage to bat at both ends of the wicket, like a Chris Gale. And I spoke significantly on the Citizens by Investment program. I actually consider it to be a teaching moment. I may just touch a little bit about it tonight, since my colleagues before me have done a little bit of that. But I just want to reflect somewhat before I get there on where we are now. In a sense, building on the platform that my colleague Daniel has laid out, we have been consistently making the case to you, this is an election like no other. Not just a time for the changing of the guards, because inevitably in political life, that happens. A person serves, their contribution is evaluated, and the people make a decision as to whether they continue or don't continue. And they may change that leadership from within the party, or they may go outside of the party to find new leadership. This is not one of those occasions. This is an occasion in which St. Vincent has done its stock taking and has recognized that those who are in charge of St. Vincent and the Grenadines took a wrong exit or a U-turn and have taken this blessed land of ours off course. And you are right in your home, in the quiet of your home, to ask, how so, Major? Off course how? Wrong course how? Well, let's examine a few things, a few home truths. It has to be an embarrassment of all times that a political leader who made his name in this region's leading educational institution, the University of the West Indies, who at one time or the other, writings would have been considered to be of value to our young students, today finds himself on the receiving end of the very stakeholders and instruments that brought him to office. Because some of you are that young, first-time voters in particular, let me remind you that this regime, to borrow the expression of my colleague Daniel, this rogue regime made its name and celebrated its name on being a government formed through a roadblock revolution. A nice word to accept and acknowledge that they disrupted the constitutional provision of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, ignored or rejected out of hand the outcome of an election result, and in their language made the bold declaration that St. Vincent would remain ungovernable. So said, so proclaimed, so achieved. Even they themselves couldn't manage the state over the last 19 years. Where's Major going with all this? There's a thing that we call in life physical courage. Physical courage we very often see in the armed forces, Air Force, Marines, Army, Coast Guard. When sailors, soldiers, airmen would, in exceptional acts of duty, defy great odds, lines of fire, cross rivers, streams, do exceptional things in the name of the country to secure victory. And they are awarded and rewarded with medals of all kinds for the physical strength and courage. But there's also something that's called moral courage, completely different to the physical courage. That moral courage is the ability of an individual to see that something is manifestly wrong and against all the odds and potential retaliation, stand up as a man or woman and defy the powers that be and call a spade a spade. This week, something remarkable happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we must not let it go unnoticed. Just over 20 years ago, I was then the president of the Employers Federation, one of the governing bodies for business in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And in that regard, I ended up in Grenada in what was called the Grand Beach Accord. When St. Vincent came to civil unrest, we became ungovernable. And through negotiations, the life of the New Democratic Party was cut short by 2.5 years. President then, too, was a young man. I didn't even know him. And the story that I'm sharing now is important. Mr. Israel Bruce. He was then president of the National Youth Council, NYC, a respectable body and voice of young people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Present in Grenada, too, was the leadership of all of the trade unions in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Public Service Union, the Teachers Union, CTAWU, and the National Workers Movement. And they all lined up, without exception, to bring down the New Democratic Party from office. Not the Youth Council. They stood objectively and resisted that attempt. 20 years or so after, the very unions that brought the Unity Labour Party into government said no more. No more! And encouraged by bold moral statement, the membership to rally behind Dr. Friday and the New Democratic Party to bring an end to the tyranny. And they came to that position out of bitter experience. Experience which led, and you wouldn't believe it, a teachers' union to have to take the government to courts to get justice in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A public service union to take the government to courts to get justice for its members who couldn't get fair and square promotion because St. Vincent had deteriorated and descended into a state of virtual one-party existence, one-man existence. The High Court made a decision that the government was found wanting. Well, it hasn't been so proclaimed, but that, in fact, that's what it is. Today, the government has not complied with the High Court. Keeping or being consistent with their own determination, you have to come back to Papa. So if we have a country in which even the High Court can be disobeyed, flaunted, other ordinary citizens who have been charged with contempt of court will be dragged before the court and they'll be jailed for their defiance. Not so in St. Vincent. But the union, I said, had the moral courage to take a stand. I salute them here tonight on behalf of this New Democratic Party. I reference Israel Bruce of the National Youth Council. 20 years after, there's no such body. There's no National Youth Council. It has disappeared. What does that signal to us in Vincent and the Grenadines? Young first-time voter, elderly, parents, that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines we have a country, when I talk, no damn dog bark. It's Gonzales or nothing. Or, let me correct myself, it's Gonzales or Camilo. You want a further correction? Gonzales, Camilo, or Julian. Thereby stands the case of Sister K of a dynasty. That is the essence, ladies and gentlemen, in the comfort of your homes. What we are changing this time. That if we were to make the sad mistake and return that government to office and confirm that we are in fact on people's plantation and estate, we will reap a bitter harvest. We are not just a resilient people in St. Vincent. We are not just a hard-working people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. but we are a self-respecting people who can rise to the occasion, and we are being presented with the opportunity on November 5th to bring an end to that tyranny and to Gonzalezism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's a strong enough case by itself. Earlier this week, we had the embarrassing declaration or revelation by Dr. Friday as leader of the party, next Prime Minister to be, my colleague Daniel Cummings, who was taunting them as he wants to be when he wants to exact a little pain for people's misgivings, and highlighted by Fitz, my colleague, that we have pedaled back, that what we call the indigent poor in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Indigent. Indigent means you are the poorest of the poorest. You have poor, but you poorer than poor. You are indigent poor. Dirt poor, it is called sometimes. There are people who live on less than $300 per month in St. Vincent. They are referred to as indigent poor. Fitz presented that same statistic in a different way. They said there's a large number of Vincentians who don't earn $14 per day. It's the same mathematics, the same calculus. So stay with me, first-time voters. Stay with me in your home tonight, those of you who are having a little drink, a little coffee, a little tea with this presentation. Just above the indigent poor, there are a set of people who are a little bit more fortunate. They are called the poor people of the country. What does that mean? Daniel, I'm correct? They earn less than $500 per month. And if the government doesn't care about that, they themselves employ people in the YES program for less than the wage of a poor person. So they have no problem with maintaining poverty. They have institutionalized poverty because they pay people less than the declared poverty threshold of $500 a month. Now ask yourself this question in your homes tonight. Can Vincentians live on a salary or a wage of $500 per month? Can they pay the rent, the electricity, the water, the food, the transportation, and the medical expenses on a salary of $500 per month? The answer is obvious. You could only do that by being magical, and not here now in music, but by rotating your expense. You pay your rent this month and another month or two. You pay light bill this month and another month or two. And so we have the proverbial question on water, where scores of people will come to us politicians. I need help with my rent. I need help with my light bill. I need help with my water bill. Not because they want to be at the doorstep of us politicians, but because in practical terms, short of prostituting themselves, in some cases, especially with the women, they have to come cap in hand and ask and beg their way out of their social decay. But that, strange enough, while it aches and pains all of us in the Democratic Party, gives the Unity Labour Party a certain degree of comfort that to the extent that poverty increases, they see longevity in political service because they love the poor. Now, you may think it is bad that we have a category of people called indigent poor, or even people called poor. Not so. The brilliant Ralph E. Gonzalez, he came to the parliament waxing warm. And he spins and twists as he lies weighs down his shoulder and highlights his deceit in his eyes. And with Jagonian tongue, he says to us, honorable members and friends, there's a category of people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The ones used to be able to cut their lawns, drive their cars, attend social events, enjoy a good and decent life. Today, and he's boasting, they can no longer do that. They can no longer cut the lawns. They can't change the tires in the car, they have to drive on the donut. They're in tattered clothing, and some of the injections are my translation of what he's saying. And he says, think about it. These sets of people who were yesterday middle class, they now constitute in St. Vincent the genteel poor. So he recognized and acknowledged that people who were once middle class, lives are so deteriorated that we had not just indigent poor and poor, but now the genteel poor. That is the middle class that had receded to be unable to look after themselves. And shamelessly, he proclaims, you know, this is an unusual phenomenon, you know. I think only St. Vincent has it. The University of the West Indies probably should come here and study this phenomenon. But what they have to study? They don't have to study the genteel poor, they have to study Ralph. And they would understand why we have genteel poor. Because we have an economy that is fundamentally a mirage. What makes people like Fitzbramble important in the equation of the government that we're forming? And Daniel as an engineer. And my president as a social scientist. Because we have to fix it. And we have to fix it with honesty and earnesty and sincerity. But most important, we must fix it with practical know-how. I make no bones about it. No bones about it. The Unity Labour Party has been living a lie. I don't even want to talk about what I'm seeing and hearing now. The propaganda, the untruths, dishonesties, the misrepresentations, the character assassination, the intimidation, the fear, the despair. I speak solely on evidential evidence. Just another reason why they should go and go fast. The 2014 audit report by the Director of Audit. Just as the ordinary poor person would skip a meal a day, or give the children the brackish water, or go to the yard to paint the catmint or whatever it is to make the tea, because they could add no other color to it. In the same way, they'll go and ask to bust a bag of bread that normally costs $2 and say, sell me 2 out of it and 3 out of it. In the same way, the ordinary housewife will cut the tube of toothpaste and squeeze it to see what's left in the end of it. Or the 3 last soap in the house, squeeze them up to one more bed, one more soap up. They do the same thing with government finances. We approve budgets, but when you examine it, the monies are not spent. So when on the recurrent side, we get the impression that governments have large budgets, invariably, it is because they are not replacing retired public servants, filling vacancies, not doing a lot of things that should be administratively conducted. So they try to balance the book, by and large, through manipulation and deception. That's on the recurrent side. Bad enough. But worse still is what they do to the investment class in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And this is a serious business because it affects our capacity as a nation state for wealth creation. On the capital programs, on their best day, they're simply achieving about 29-30% of what they say will do. You give the Ministry of Transport and Works $80 million to spend to do things in St. Vincent, they spend $20 million. You give the productive sector of agriculture $20 million budget, they spend $2 million. You give the Ministry of Health a hefty budget portion, they don't spend it, and we end up in the hospital sick. And you can go through like that. In fact, from 2008, the government started this deceitful presentation of budgets, stating then that they had $72 million that they received from other income. They received zero. In the very last budget of 2019, or 2020 budget, sorry, where they stated we will receive $208 million in other income. The evidence is that we are not likely to receive $8 million. It's just not there. Users always made this case. And we say it over and over. And I'm saying this, because our people have to decide whether we want to vote those dishonesty and deception back into office. Not Friday said that. Not Cummins, not Bacchus. The director of audit and directors repeatedly said the budgets lack credibility. They're untruthful. They're dishonest. Against that background alone, not just what the trade union said and did, not just his own utterances, but his public servants, he should demit office and give it to a good and decent party like the New Democratic Party. I make one last statement. My little bit on the Citizen by Investment program. And Daniel, you touched a little bit tonight, but time didn't allow you to go further. I give thanks, People don't like me. They call me arrogant and so forth. That's fine, once they don't say ignorant. But if you need that, it's in the background. In this country, one of the worst things that has happened to St. Vincent and the Grenadines over the 19 years, over and above the divisiveness, the red versus yellow, the haves and the have-nots, is the extent to which, in some cases, greed and avarice, in other cases, just plain self-interest, professional class have been able to ignore the plight of the working class, the poor and the downtrodden, and allow what the government wants to have done. Let's go to the CBI. Let's start at the individual and at the institutional stage to examine this. If in truth and in fact, and the evidence so speaks, that in all of our neighboring Caribbean countries where that program is in place, you can bring in an extra $100 and something million, 200 millions, sometimes as much as $300 million more into your national economy from that program called Citizen by Investment Program. Fitz, I'm speaking to you. If that is in fact a possibility and the evidence points that is happening over and over again, Dominica, through the program, gave 400 houses free to its citizens. St. Kitts brought its debt to GDP ratio down to 60%, 10 years ahead of the time frame set by the World Bank. If that is in fact the case, this is my logic, who are the people who would benefit from such a program, even before the New Democratic Party? Well, I submit to you, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce ought to have an interest in that policy decision. Why? Because it means money coming to their business houses. When Vincentians people, and in particular poor people, the indigent poor as you call them, the poor and the genteel poor, when they get income, what do? They don't hoard it. They don't ship it abroad. They move from boathouse to wall houses. They move from 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. They move from latrine to sewage. They go to the supermarket. They move from porridge to cereal. They move from back and neck to leg quarters on a weekend. They move from chicken to turkey. They move from Morby to a good glass of juice. They upgrade themselves. They eat better. They live better. They wear better. And in any economy, the economy certainly, not just what you have, but the turnover. That is critical in the economy. The multiplier effect is called. I'm borrowing Fitz's territory. So, I would expect, if my argument has a basis, damn it, the president of the organization will get up and say, you see that thing? There must be a good reason why in Grenada that the people gave the government all of the seats. There must be a great reason in Antigua why the government got all of the seats on the mainland. There must be a reason why in St. Kitts the government is in place with the majority of people. There must be a reason why in St. Lucia and other places with support of CBI, overwhelmingly you have governments being supported by the citizens. They're doing something right. But not in St. Vincent. So I'm calling them out. Because the good things, they can't chastise I. Can't chastise the I. He cannot make a stand on behalf of his membership. That's the first thing, And say, you see this? Just as the unions could make a stand and say, Gonzales must go. They can say what the government is doing is inimical to the business interests. And we are supporting or asking for a change of regime that improves the business opportunity, the investment climate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But they can't do that. They can't do that because too many people want to compromise themselves and hold on to people's short tails. Stay on the estate. Get the coconuts that drop on the tree free of charge. You won't be shot. Be called up to government house for a cocktail. Go to a social drink in the Prime Minister's residence. Be on your cruise and do the good life. And the devil takes care of the rest behind us. We have to have a social conscience. We have to be transformative as a people. We have to be a sacrificing political party. We have to make that determination that given the opportunity, it is what we do for others. And that our job is not just here to defend and protect and uplift the state, but the state only gets better when we make that contribution to the individual membership of our societies. That's the New Democratic Party for you. I close on this. But let me finish the CBI closure. Because this is how I put it. Because that debate is not a finished debate, 2 years ago in the parliament, when I was carrying that argument, and I do not know what is wrong with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. While we don't follow these things through logically, the people who are doing the working paper out of the East Caribbean Central Bank were moving in a direction to show you that properly managed, that same Citizens by Investment program that can address the existing pension fund challenges in the public service and in our national insurance schemes by putting aside large amounts of money, perhaps 2.5%. Therefore, we will not have to find ourselves in a situation that our people, when they retire from the public service, have to wait till 65 and 70, those who stay alive. A larger amount are dying these days because we could have solved some of those pension fund problems through the same Citizen by Investment programs. But the laziness, the slavery of the mind, the intellectual backwardness, the lack of genuine national interests don't allow our people to take this country forward and to put it into a better place. Lastly, Mr. President, I know you want to get your night's sleep, and Daniel. How do you have, inverted commas, good and decent people offering themselves in 2020? This is not just after slavery. This is not 19th century calculus. This is not somebody blindfolding your tiny hand behind your back or putting you in a no-win situation. These are people who have been schooled and gone beyond their parents and their grandparents and great-grandparents in the so-called roadblock revolution era. Watching Vincentians and rejecting an argument that it is an important imperative that if you call yourself a representative, that by law, by good public administration procedures, that every parliamentarian be allocated a certain amount of money for that constituency. They must be empowered. You must get beyond promise. You must become can-do politicians and representatives, not to be called a Mr. Minister and to be on an airplane every Monday morning in a five-star hotel elsewhere and your people left behind. They elected you to office to serve them. And our finance provisions and management procedures must be moderated and changed to accommodate the development and upliftment of our people. I say if you can't support that, reject them out of hand. As another guy will call them, they're a bunch of fake news. Good night, thank you. God bless you for listening to me.
I'll see Friday and them have to back down. Judge we provide for the youths, them regular. Them a make promise and not keep them. November the 5th, NDP will win them. vote for the NDP. Yeah, we are when November the 5th is only one.
The band Flames and more, funds by DJ Fugitive and CJ Tuffa. The NDP Youth Rally this Saturday, October 31st, 7 p.m. at the Richmond Hill Playing Field. Lebanon!
Them fear we are vote for the NDP. Yeah, we.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Vice President of the New Democratic Party, Sinclair, well, the Major Sinclair Leacock, ladies and gentlemen. I like his ending there, a bunch of fake news. At this point in time, we're going to give you a little taste of what is to come. And of course, the youth rally that will be held this Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field, ladies and gentlemen. He's been performing so far on the campaign trail. He performed in Central Kingston. He's here tonight with one of the big campaign songs for 2020. Give it up for Casper G.
Don't play with it. You don't know me, I talk to all the youths them. All the ghetto youth them, you don't know me, I get to youth myself. Remember we voting for the key, right? Mr. Friday is the man for the house. We go get the ULPO. And we will never regret. It's the sweetest life we go get. And when the people them start to shout, I had to give me cousin a cloud. Boy, let me start fret. Vincy, I love St. Vincent. I don't know where them saying them love. Them a whole ghetto youth them a war. We fly like a dove. Them a victimize the people them. They don't know on November 5th we are going to the poll, right? Let me say, labor loose. Pull it up one time, DJ. DJ, remember you walk with me, right? Stop it one time, let me say something. Stop it. Yeah, I want to say a blessed good night to everybody who tune in on the live, everybody who is here in the audience. You don't know, my name is Casper G. And right now, 2020, despite COVID-19, could be one of the best years in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we put Dr. Friday and the New Democratic Party in power. Yes. Well, everybody don't know me as Casper G. I'm one of the upcoming artists. I like to say that I'm the future of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And me could tell all you, Ralph Nakebo Awi, no time. Ralph Kebo themselves and the people who loyal to his regime. It's time for the people of this country and the youth of this country to show Ralph and the regime that we not retarded and we not stupid. We know what we deserve and we know we want and we deserve better. So on the 5th of November we go in and vote. Bossy style DJ don't play. You don't know we dey on it. Big up Mr. Friday tonight and the whole of NDP. Me love all your bad. Them say let's get SPG walking. I walk, we walk. Mr. Friday is the man for the house. We go get the ULP out. And we will never regret. It's the sweetest life we go get. And when the people them start to shout, I had to give me cousin a cloud. The boy make me start fret. Tap the white shot on the step. I love St. Vincent. I don't know where them say them love. Them a whole ghetto you down. Them a war we fly like a dove. Them a victimize the people. Them the poor man get push and shove. And the 4th of November, the 5th of November. Let me say, labor loose. Carlos get so much like still he run out his shoes. I say, labor loose. Rooster get so much like still he run out his shoes. I say, labor loose. Maniva get so much like still she run out his shoes. I say, labor loose. Debbie, they are telling you now, right? We say 20 years in power, never raise up salaries. 60% back me $100 done with ease. We woman getting underpaid by Syrian and Chinese. When I see me pays them back, it just hot me heart on me knees. I love St. Vincent. I don't know where them saying them love. Them a whole ghetto you down. And for years them see, we see them holding me down. Ghetto you can't guys no way, but you see the 5th of November. How when me say, labor loose. Lex for Luke, we don't play with him. You don't know Carter's getting legs too. Labor loose. Come here, football and go back to sleep. now, hey. I tell Mr. 40, liquor case my chargy. To how them run this country, I cannot vote for Ralphie. And you don't know me don't talk. And the youths them talking too. This Saturday, let me say, Labor lose. Augustus have to ball out. And you see when we hold a man there with name Ralph, he barely have to come down small. Let me say now. Don't play with them. Pull it up the DJ one time, give me. Pull it up, DJ. Stop it. And me talk to the people them. If you're walking in this country for minimum wage, vote out Labour. 19 years in power, and them never do nothing for salary, and then they say Labour love. How you could love me and get me working 90 years for one salary and never do nothing? 16% VAT. Back in the days when we go in the supermarket, we take with Charlie, buy where we want, and then we go to the cashier. Nowadays, we have to take with phone and go on the calculator and go and calculate then 250 for that day, 5 for that day. Time for get rid of them! We fed up! Bust it back, DJ, let me get that one more time. I can't spell Jimmy love all the bad. And if you love Vinci like how I love Vinci, and the 5th of November, we are going to bust expand them. You don't know it go. Mr. Friday is the man for the house. We go get the ULP out, and we will never regret. It's the sweetest life we go get. And when the people them start to shout, I had to give me cousin a cloud. The boy make me start fret. Drop the boy, I love St. Vincent. I don't know where them say them love. Them a whole ghetto you down them now how we feel fly like a dove. Them a victimize the people, them the poor man get push and shove. And the 5th of November, Vinci people saying, Labour lose. Carlos get so much they still even out his shoes. I say, Labour lose. Bruce I get so much they still even out his shoes. I say, Labour lose. Money if I get so much they still even out his shoes. I say, let me say, oh, let me say them 20 years in power never raise up salaries. 50 moves like back me $100 don't wait. Stop it one more time. You don't know. We can't get rid of them. Right? I see my female friends, my neighbors, sister aunties walking for years and getting underpaid by the Syrians. We get rid of them. And I will never regret. It's the sweetest life you go get. And when the people them start to shout, I had to give me cousin a cloud. The boy make me start fret. Tap the white shirt on the step, I love St. Vincent. I don't know where them say them love. Them a whole ghetto youth down them now how we feel fly like a dove. Them a victimize the people, them the poor man get push and shove. Everybody on the live, just let me hear I post on the live and say, Labour lose. Hey, don't know this is Casper J's always a pleasure performing for all. Me love all the bad. Big up Flanker one time, call Labour dead.
What will you do there, boy?
When I look for a modern city with them, say them supposed to be out there. You know what they?
You really looking for that?
Since morning, I look for that thing, you know.
A man like you, Flanker?
Them tell me a modern city out there, so me come look for state, and I want to see how it look.
Oh my God, Flanker, you know got better sense than that?
So you try to tell me?
But you gonna be looking for a modern city, a man like you?
But me not see nothing, I look for how long.
So if you not see how you look?
Then tell me look good.
Government now has in its possession the master plan for the development of the new city at Ardersvale.
See, Chemical Kim, flank of the war tanker. The band Flames and more. Funds by DJ Fugitive and CJ Tuffa. The NDP Youth Rally this Saturday, October 31st, 7 p.m. at the Richmond Hill Playing Field.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and it's happening this Saturday at the Richmond Hill Playing Field. We encourage you to come and to be a part of the New Democratic Party's massive Youth Rally, Richmond Hill playing field this Saturday. We're calling the whole of Windward, the whole of Leeward, and of course the Northern and the Southern Grenadines going to be coming up for this one as we all converge on Kingstown at the Richmond Hill playing field this coming Saturday for a massive youth rally, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, the next speaker we had should have been Israel Bruce. But again, because of the weather system that is affecting us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and still presently here in Kingston, and I guess throughout other parts of the mainland, the rain continues to pour. And we understand that there were some individuals in the constituency for Israel Bruce who were affected through the heavy rains and high winds, and persons may have been evacuated to the shelters. They have reported landslides in Byra too as well. So we understand that Israel Bruce is on the ground in the constituency, and for that reason and that reason alone why he's not here with us tonight. And we commend him for being on the ground, showing the care and the concern in his constituency at this time, again showing real leadership in his constituency, and we applaud him for that. So that brings us to our final speaker here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He continues to show strong leadership at the head of the New Democratic Party, and he continues to show as well influential leadership. Now when I say influential leadership, I mean to say on Independence Day we heard a speech from the outgoing Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and said something to the effect that he was going to reduce the interest rate for student loans, ladies and gentlemen. And I just smile, because I know it was nothing more than he was influenced by our political leader and the man who is the incoming Prime Minister for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who made the same statement that he will reduce the interest rate for student loans to make it easier for students going forward after they take their loans for their studies. So ladies and gentlemen, to bring real leadership to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, here tonight, give it up for the next Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Godwin Friday.
Good night. It's a different vibe here tonight, but I like it. It feels like we're up close and personal. You know, it's a conversation with our people, because we have some very serious challenges ahead of us. We have to understand them in order to deal with them. Let me just say good night to everyone who is listening here throughout our blessed land. And for those who are listening farther afield, in our diaspora, in North America and elsewhere, throughout the Caribbean and in Europe, we thank you for those who are still with us, for being here, for listening, for taking an interest in what's happening in your beautiful country. For those persons who are also affected by the heavy rains and the winds, we continue to keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and trust that whatever damage there is now, it is repairable. What is most important is that we take the precautions that are necessary to protect life and limb from serious injury or greater harm. Our thoughts are with Israel Bruce and in his constituency, and for all those people throughout the country who have been affected. We may have more to come, so please be careful. Now, Casper G, you really put it well for the young people. Being a voice for the young people in this campaign takes courage, And it takes leadership to stand up and say, enough of that. And we applaud you for it. We have called upon the young people many times throughout this campaign. So this is your campaign. This is your chance to say, we are going to shape our destiny. That you have an invitation in the New Democratic Party, an open door, a welcome to say, let us move forward together, having discussed and analyzed our problems. Let us move forward together with the solution. And the challenge we have, you know, it is not insurmountable. It is not a challenge that is beyond us. If it were, we would have no hope. And we here in the New Democratic Party are in the business of bringing hope to the people of this country, because hope helps us to get up one day after the next and to continue to work to make things better for ourselves and for our neighbors. But in order to do it, we have to make the difficult choices. The first choice we have to make, and especially for the young people who may, with some justification, feel that this country has let them down, that it has not delivered for them, the first step for us to take is to make the decision that you are the agent of change in this country, that you can change things for the better. And then the next step is to say that the opportunity to do so comes on November the 5th. And that I will take my vote and make a difference with it. It's not enough to say that things are terrible in the country. We know that they are. The economic conditions are terrible. But we are good, decent, hard-working, capable people. And God has blessed us with a land that is bountiful. The fact that it has been misused and not developed is not your fault. And it is not inevitable either. We can change it. But we need you to join with us to do so. I heard Daniel was talking about some of the opportunities that we have to create jobs and more economic opportunities for our people. It's not rocket science, you know. We simply have to focus on the needs of people and be sincere about it. To stop the victimization, the posturing, all the big talk, and figure out how we're going to improve things for the people in this country. Yesterday, I was out in South Windward. We're doing a walkabout, talking to people, talking to a young person who had been to college and graduated, I think, 2016 or 17. Did well, did everything we asked her to do, but has not been able to find a job in that time. I tell these stories, and every time I say so and there's a crowd, there is affirmation from amongst the people there who know of other young people who are in these desperate circumstances. And what this does is it saps them of their initiative, their hope, their drive, and it says to them that this country doesn't care about them. When the youth of a country loses hope in the future of a country, then we are doomed. Because it is they who have to take over with their new approaches to things, with their willingness to challenge the status quo and to say what was is the way of my parents. No disrespect to them, but they have taught me to look for a new path, and this is how we go forward towards the future. When our young people stop inquiring in this way and feel that the country has let them down, that the political system is not a place for solutions, then we are in deep trouble. But we have not yet gone over the precipice. We are approaching dangerous ground. But there are things we can do to divert us from the path where the harm becomes irreparable. And what we can do is we can take the decisions that are necessary to bring us into a brighter future. For accolades, for pedestals, for people to sing us praises and to say how bright and how wonderful we are. Our task is simple, but in a sense greater. We are looking for solutions. That is what we do in government. And to do so, we have to understand where we are now. Which is why when you have a government that conceals the findings of an important study, the poverty assessment study, when they conceal that information from our people, what it says to me, or what it proves to me, is the height of dishonesty in the way in which they relate to the people who they say put them in office. Because when they don't level with the people on things that are so important, you are basically saying that it is better for you to mislead and to conceal and to hoodwink than it is for you to say, here is the problem that we have. How will we tackle it? Now, when this government in office now came to power in 2001, they made promises to the people of this country. They said that they would bring economic prosperity, that they would tackle and confront crime, that they would build a new modern healthcare center that will take care of the needs, the healthcare needs of our people. They said they would do all of these things and more. And 19 years later, what we have is a trail of broken promises, a political landscape littered with false starts, with lies and deceit, the most recent of which is their effort to conceal the poverty assessment report or study that they themselves commissioned. The people who paid for it should come back and ask for their money. So what did that report reveal? My colleagues before spoke about it, but it bears repeating, because sometimes we have to say things over and over again, even for our own well-meaning people to take notice, because we want to believe in the best. We want to believe nobody likes bad news. But if the ship is sinking, it does us no good to pretend otherwise, because at some point you're going to find out when you're underwater. Right now, our country quite literally is sinking. You have heard us say over and over again that we are at the bottom of the list when it comes to economic performance in the OECS. Last year, our economy grew by 0.4%, which is no growth at all. That can't create jobs, can't improve lives. We have also, in the poverty assessment report, well, let's go back a little further. You've heard us report as well on the IMF figures, which says that today we have a greater percentage of our people unemployed than there was in 2001 when this ULP government came into office. From all the talk you hear from them, you would think it was otherwise. Back then in 2001, the unemployment rate was already high at 20%. And this is what they said when they came to office, that they were going to tackle and they were going to reduce it to 5%. Instead, they have increased it to 26%. And now with COVID-19 having struck, it's closer to 40%. And for young people, God help them, it's over 50%. So no wonder the young woman I met yesterday was somewhat discouraged, because she said, I have sent out so many resumes over the past 3 years. I have tried and nothing. And nobody gives a damn, because all they do is talk and pretend that it's otherwise. Well, I want to solve those problems. I want to be able to look that young person in the eye and say, I've tried. I know what you're going through. We will get through this together because I understand your pain. We will create opportunities for you, because this country is yours too. You have a future here in this country. I have been given my share in my lifetime. I have been grateful for that. I'm not asking for thank yous, but I feel an obligation that if I can, to make things better, so that my passage through this life, through this land, will have done some good to somebody. That is what motivates me. And it is what motivates my team. It is why I struggle so hard to make sure that we get it right. Because when we come to office on November the 6th, we will hit the ground running, start dealing with the problems of the people of this country. So, we have the poverty assessment report, which says that between 2008 and 2018, the people of this country got poorer. That then we had 30% of the people below the poverty line in 2008. Today, it is 36%. So it's gone from 30% to 36% of the people who are living at or below the poverty line. That is over 40,000 people in this country living at or below the poverty line. We are a population of just over 110,000 when everybody is standing up. What's worse, in 2008, the indigent poor, as Leacock called them, the dirt poor, they bragged about it and they said they had reduced it from a figure that was higher to 2.9% or thereabouts. Let's round it out, say 3%. These are the people that you want to uplift. They are the ones for whom life is a crisis every single day because they don't have enough to eat. These are the people whom you have to give priority to and make sure that that figure of 2.9% is unacceptable and too high and must be reduced to zero. Instead, in 2018, that number has risen to 11.3% of the people in this country living dirt poor. That means they have less than $262 a month to live on. And those who are poor, they live on less than $562 a month. That includes the people who are on the YES program because they earn $450 a month. So the government is paying people at a rate that is below what is considered to be the poverty line. How can that be acceptable in this country? We don't give jobs, we don't do anything to create jobs for young people, and when you employ them, you make them essentially subsidize their own jobs because they can't live on what you're paying them. So this is why we say to the young people that we will raise the amount that is paid for the YES program to $650. It ain't enough, but at least it leaves them with something left back after they pay, travel, they get to work, and they buy a little lunch. And we're not paying them below the poverty line. And what's more, we want to expand the program so that persons in the private, right now the program operates essentially in the public sector and in schools. We want to encourage the private sector to say, this problem of unemployment is a national crisis. We are one nation, one people, one Vinci. Our problems are common problems. We can help you to get somebody who's young, talented, ambitious, ready to work, and we will pay them the $650. But you could match it and keep them on for a year. Give them a chance to earn a living wage and put something on their resume when they finish. And maybe, in fact, I am counting on it, that at the end of that year, that young person will approve his or her worth, and that employer will say, you know what, we'll keep you on. And if you want to go and study sometime later on, we will encourage you as well to go and do so. We have to make them feel that they're part of this country belongs to them. We have said as well that for young people who are not earning, they should be learning. If you want to go to school to study, the tertiary institution, university, college, even at the community college here, We will make it possible for you to obtain loans at a rate of 4.5%, so that you don't feel like you're taking out a mortgage or you're borrowing to start a business. You're borrowing to go and invest in yourself so you could come back and work and help us to build our country. So therefore we should make it easier and possible, and if not for your interest, in our own self-interest. But we want to do it for you too, because we love you and we believe that the young people are the future of this country, as they ought to be. So we will make it so that you can get loans at 4.5%. And I give you this promise: if in operating the program we think we can get the loans down to 4% or 3.5% and still allow the program to be viable, we will do it. Because the object of it is not to make money for government. The object of it is to make sure that our young people have a chance to develop themselves. Now, when I talk about the projects that we have in store, again, these are projects that are manageable. They're not pie-in-the-sky things. Cross-country road, tunnel under King Garden, and city at Arnesville. I mean, honestly. We went to school too. What we do is we are talking about practical things we can do. This book, we spent some time going through it, putting plans in place here in our manifesto that are practical, achievable within the 5-year term of our first government. It is not that we can't come up with fancy schemes, that will take your breath away, but they can't be implemented. That is continuing. If we were to do that, it will continue the deceit that this present government is so characterized by. In fact, instead, our manifesto is a practical plan of things that we can do and implement that will improve the lives of our citizens. But we need to be able to do this. We need to form government. We need to form government to be able to do it. And we have seen the failed policies of this present administration. The challenge that we have is, how do we, having understood the plight of our people, the growing poverty in our country, the failure of our businesses, our inability to attract legitimate investors to develop our tourism sector rapidly. Fitz, tonight you talked about, I think you said it was Marriott or somebody was building a hotel? Sandals. Well, the story is more complicated than that. The hotel is Buckingham Bay, it's here. We are buying it. We are paying for it on the promise that Sandals will buy it back from the government. It really is a desperation move on the part of government to say, listen, we have to get the Buckingham Bay Resort working. However it came about, they made a mess of it. They couldn't find anybody to buy it or to lease it because they couldn't determine who actually owns the whole thing. So the government has said that they would buy it. Now we thought hard about this and said, that's a very strange deal, that we would borrow money to buy a hotel that has failed us far for a major multi-million-dollar hotel chain in the Caribbean. But they said this is the only way it could be done, to consolidate the title so that Sandals would buy it. So we supported it. But we are still hopeful that this will work out the way that they told us. But they have an obligation to come to the people and tell us how the thing going, because it's we paying for it as it is now. We want to see it succeed, and I trust and pray that it will, because it will create jobs for our people. It will create economic opportunities that are so desperately needed to lift us out of the poverty that we are sliding into. There are other projects that they have on the books, but they don't have the means to finance them. We know that in order for the Argyle International Airport to work, that you must have increased hotel room stock here on the mainland. Because if you bring a transatlantic flight from the UK to St. Vincent with 300 people on it, right now you don't have enough hotel room to accommodate them. And it can't work unless you build hotel capacity on the mainland. So the government, they recognize this too. And they are seeking in a desperate way to build it, but nobody is coming to do it. So what they do now is they're going to borrow $50 million from the Taiwanese to build a hotel, they say, at Mount Wynn. They want to take money from the NIS and from government to build a hotel, they say, out at Diamond. And they have the audacity, the gall, the deceit in their actions to put up on their billboard that how these investors, Marriott, and who the other one, Holiday Inn, as if they are actually building these facilities. When in fact, we are the ones, we, the taxpayers, are the ones who are building them and inviting these people to come in to run them. Now, this is our reality. So the challenge is, how do we raise capital instead of having to borrow and carry our national debt from $560 million when they came into office to over $1.7 billion, where 40 cents of every dollar now goes just to serve it to pay the debt. How do we raise the capital to do that? What is your solution? They have no answer except to borrow and to tax. They put something in your pocket with your left hand and they take it with their right hand. So you know what the right hand is taking more. And so we ask, what is your solution? After all, we know what the problem is. There are no jobs in the country for young people. The poverty in the country is growing. Their own report said so. The country is headed in the wrong direction. It's going downhill. So what is your solution? And we say we have to raise capital to come to invest in our country in a way in which we don't have to borrow it and we don't have to tax our people to get more of it. And one of the ways to do so is through the development of the Citizenship by Investment Program. That is the reason that we are interested in it, to raise debt-free and tax-free capital to be able to invest in infrastructural development, in hotels, to raise funds to be able to put in an investment fund run by government to build a hotel, to build a hospital, to do things that help to transform our economy and create the opportunities for that young woman who I talked to yesterday in South Windward. So I ask again, when you're talking glibly about our plan to use this program that has proven to be successful in other countries in the region that has brought hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in. To give you an example, in 2018 in St. Kitts, $168 million was raised through the Citizenship by Investment Program. In 2018, that's 2 years ago in Dominica, $315.4 million was raised through the Citizenship by Investment Program. Antigua, in the same year, raised $95 million. Grenada, 3 years ago, $128.4 million. And St. Lucia last year, 2019, they were the last to join such a program, raised $66.3 million. This is money that can be used to create jobs for people. We are using our assets to say this is how we will mobilize international capital to come to our shores. And we say to those persons who are properly vetted, persons who we are sure are not going to bring our country into disrepute, to say if you make a substantial investment in our country, if you show that you have a stake in our country, if you put your money where your mouth is, then you are entitled to become also a citizen of this country. We do it now. That is how David Ames got citizenship. In fact, when the question was asked in Parliament, the answer was from the government that he made a substantial investment in the country and therefore citizenship was justified on his part. Well, expand that tenfold, 100-fold, and what you have is a properly run, well, in the case of David Ames, it wasn't so. But with the proper mechanisms in place, you have a properly run citizenship by investment program. In the last 3 years, you don't have to accept everybody who comes. You vet them. You use international agencies of reputable agencies to vet them. Such as in Grenada over the past 3 years, they rejected over 140 applicants because they didn't meet the criteria. I'm sure they had the money, but otherwise didn't meet the criteria to say we want you to be a citizen of Grenada. So that is what, in a nutshell, the Citizenship by Investment Program is. Right now, there are many people, foreign investors, who come and invest in our country, and we welcome them on the rail, on the proper terms. They build homes, they invest in businesses, hotels, and many of them have become citizens of our country. And they contribute in many ways, in further ways, to the development of our country. So, why the hysteria? Why all of the lies, deceit, in the same way that they could not publish the poverty assessment analysis and level with our people, where they sought to deceive them, is the same way that they're spreading lies and deceit about a program that we know and they know, because it's proven right through our region, can bring benefits to our people who are now in a desperate state that we have come to after 19 years of this government. One where we are poorer. There is greater poverty in this country. But let me give you one last statistic from the Poverty Assessment Report. It is not only that the people have gotten poorer, the inequality in our society has increased because those who are doing well are doing better, and those who are catching hell are doing worse. So when you go around the country and you ask the people and they tell you, try them and ask to vote them, because it's the same people getting everything. That is a layman's way of saying exactly that. That those who have are getting more. And they have the gall to come and say that when you have a solution that can help the people, they stand on the high horse and they pontificate and talk in philosophy and crap when people are suffering. We are about solutions. On November the 6th, I want to start bringing the solutions to this country that will transform the lives of our people. And the Otley Hall Marina and Shipyard. Now, if that is not the biggest evidence of the callous neglect of this government, here you have a facility which properly run, people will tell you, you would have to be the worst business person for that to fail. Because right now, it is one of the best facilities in the Caribbean. Well, not right now, because now it bust up. It mess up. It rotten. It rusted through. But it has the potential to be. It used to be. So, what we can do is to develop that facility, to allow it, enable it to achieve the potential that was there when it was built. It was built as a means of helping us to transform our economy away from bananas that was declining until we could transform our agriculture as well. That's another story. And because of spite and pettiness and political vindictiveness, they allowed it to die. In the meantime, our young people are without work. They come out of school and they lose hope. And they don't want to participate in the political system because they say it doesn't provide solutions for them. I want to restore that hope. And I promise you, during the first 5 years, the first term of my government, that Otley Hall facility will be transformed into an engine of growth in that southern corridor and will create jobs, skill jobs for over 100 people, and jobs in electrical engineering, electricians, plumbers, painters, divers, welders, skill jobs, well-paying jobs, jobs that people take pride in, and all the other ancillary services like secretarial services, janitorial services, security services, accounting services, managerial services, a whole range of services for modern, successful, large business enterprise. And the reason it will succeed is because right here in our country, we have a large fleet of ships. Our ferries, our ships that travel up and down the Caribbean. Those boats alone can keep Otley Hall working 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That is what I am told, and I believe what I'm told by the people who know. And it can also be a magnet to attract business from outside the region. Give me the chance, and you will see what we can do when you have vision, but more than that, when you have a heart that says that you are going to look out for the interests of the people. We can do this, and we must, because the evidence before us is indisputable. The government's own figures show that we are getting poorer. The international institutions show that the economy is not working. Never mind all the sweet talk and all the promises. They are broken promises. And the ones for the future, they come now telling you all kinds of things, all kinds of stories about us, demonizing us. But the people see us. They see Leacock, a man who's been in his community every single day. Cummings, Terence, Patel. They see people who work in their communities with very little resources to try to solve problems. They don't see devils with horns on their heads. So come on. An election, we know sometimes there are excesses, but we have to be honest and level with our people because our condition is terrible. Could you imagine if the captain of the Titanic had put out a notice to all the people on board and tell them stay happily in your cabin, everything is fine? What would have happened? Well, we are on the Titanic here now. We have to level with people and tell them the ship is sinking. What are we going to do about it? We have had 19 years that have steered us straight into the iceberg. They have broken their promises. They have failed to deliver a vision of a future. All they're doing is picking pieces of ideas from us and tacking them on to see if people are going to suddenly forget that they've had 19 years of failure. They've built things, nobody says no. But the indisputable fact is this: how has it served our people? If we are poorer now than we were then, it hasn't delivered. You can't get away from that fact. So what are we going to do about it? I urge the people to make that historic choice on November the 5th. To make that historic choice on November the 5th. We have a clear alternative between a government that has failed and one that promises a better future. Between a party that brings a bag full of goodies and leaves it at your doorstep and says that is yours, that's all you deserve. And one that says, you are an integral part of this development process. We will do it together, and we promise you that we will have a brighter, more prosperous future. One where you can own your living. I told somebody the other day, I can't remember where now. I want to go, when I go campaigning next election, wherever I go in the country, that instead of somebody coming up to me and say, Friday, things wrong, I want something to buy a drink. I want to come put their hand around me and say, Friday, man, come. Let me buy a drink for you. That is what I want to hear. Because here you have people who are more prosperous. They're making ends meet. They might not be rich, but they could make ends meet. They could feed their families. They could be proud. They don't have to stand up on my doorstep on a Monday morning and beg me for bread. They are my boss. They hire me to work for them. I will deliver for them. Thank you and good night.
This one is going to be massive! The NDP Youth Rally is this Saturday at the Richmond Hill playing field from 7 p.m. Come listen to Dr. Godwin Friday talk about his plans to get SVG working. Performances by Magical, Casper G, Mad Zard, Peaches, Snooks, Ras Moses, Lisa Chrissy, Chemical Kid, Akim, Flanko, the War Tanker, the Band Flames and more. Funds by DJ Fugitive and CJ Tuffa. The NDP Youth Rally this Saturday, October 31st, 7 p.m. at the Richmond Hill playing field.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, of course, that brings us to the end of our virtual meeting here tonight. For those of you who are here with us in the hall, we encourage you to get home safely with this weather tonight. We remind you, on Saturday, we assemble at the Richmond Hill playing field for the ultimate youth rally of the New Democratic Party. Come and hear from the leadership of the NDP as we speak directly to the young people of this country with big performances from top local next generation artists in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Colin Graham. It was a pleasure being your host here tonight for another New Democratic Party's virtual meeting. Remember, we go into the polls on election day, November 5th, and voting solid for the New Democratic Party. God bless you. Have a good night. Thank you for viewing.
What you do there, boy?
When I look for a modern city. A modern city with them say them supposed to build out here. You know what there?
You really looking for that?
Since morning me there I look for that thing, you know.
A man like you, Flanker?
Them tell me a modern city there out here, so me come look for state and I want to see how it look.
Oh my God, Flanker, you know got better sense than that?
So you try to tell me?
But you gonna be looking for a modern city, a man like you?
But me not see nothing, me I look for how long.
So if you not see how you look?
Then tell me look good.
Government now has in its possession the master plan for the development of the new city at Adamsvale.